Chase, because he was in the back of the pack, because he had to switch up lines, he was okay with trying that line, and then he did it, and it was way faster. Where Jet was out front, and it's like anything. Like, dude, if I'm the fastest, why should I switch up anything? Jet kept going down the inside, kept going down the inside, and Chase would end up passing him, but he just never got close. But my point is, Jet was in a spot to where everything he's already the fastest, and he won the race. And it's harder when you're in that spot to switch up lines. Well, Chase had to do that. Well, Chase ended up making a pass on Hunter Lawrence, a nice aggressive pass, and that's what I liked to see. That's when I knew dude was different, because the pass that he made was a guy that he knew he wanted to get up front. He was comfortable, and as good as Hunter Lawrence looked, Chase looked better, and Chase wanted to get around him. Now, Chase's issue to me was, and I talked about this on the broadcast, Chase had a problem with acceleration coming out of the corners. Like the spot that he actually ended up passing Hunter Lawrence, once you go into that next corner, that 180, if you look at him every lap, basically coming out of that corner, going up to that next jump where Jet was getting over that tabletop, if you look at him and you look at Hunter or you look at Jet especially, Chase was getting left in that spot. Like, he was coming out, and you could tell like he was on the gas. He was trying to get back, and he was having a hard time even getting to that top of that jump where Jet was able to get over it. But every lap, Chase, that whole segment, was like 15 seconds. It was from where Chase actually passed Hunter, and then you get over to that tabletop. It was 15 seconds. Well, when you look at the segment times, Chase was losing almost anywhere from a half second to a second each lap in that spot. Only part of the racetrack, Chase was losing. Every other segment, Chase Sexton was the fastest guy in each segment. But that particular one, he was losing so much time, and you can see it. You can see him coming out of the corner. He's getting back. It looked like he was pulling on the motorcycle to try to get it up. The back end looked low. It looked dead. And to try to even get over that jump, he couldn't even do that. Where you saw Jet, his back end was up. His bike looked like it was sitting on top of the racetrack. Like the soil, if it was super deep, Jet's bike was sitting on top and going through it, where Chase's motorcycle looked like it was dug down into it. Like, you could tell how rough the track was, how deep it was. And the difference was, like, he was just going, Jet was sitting on top, moving forward. Chase was sitting down deep, and he's pulling himself, trying to get this thing going. And it was killing him to that point to where he was losing a second right there. And it's not just that part of the racetrack. Because he was struggling coming out of that corner, it was other parts, even going on the back of the far end of the racetrack, where I brought down in the Yamaha track map, where you had that 180 going up the hill. You can see Chase coming out of the corner and just struggling trying to get up the hill. Now, I think with them, I'm be honest, when I look at those two, that's the reason Chase lost the race. Like, I know his bike was a big reason why he ended up losing the race. I mean, it was that big a difference. And this ain't a knock on KTM or anything, like, not at all. It was just that blatant to where that's one area that they're going to have to figure out. And because he was struggling so much as a rider, I know other areas that acceleration that he would end up having to do the same thing. Even like when he went off the track, it's kind of the same issue that he was having in Supercross. Mid-corner, thing wants to stand up, goes off the racetrack. Going down the hills, like, everything's fine. Chase is okay going down the hills as long as, like, he has a little bit of more stroke in that shock. But if he charges down the hill all the way, hits a big braking bump, if you notice when Chase gets in some of these corners, like, his whole bike picks up and it lifts up to the outside. Well, that's the same issue that he would have going in out of acceleration. Bike comes down on the gas, super low, hitting every single bump. And the difference between Jet's bike and Chase, when they're accelerating, Jet's bike, if you look at the rear fender, fender's here, tires here. Jet's bike tire goes like this. Fender stays the same. Jet's tire is going like this. Now, when you look at Chase's fender and his tire they're lifting up together. They're doing this. So coming out of the corners, Jet's bike's going and it's working like this. The wheels fall on the ground, where Chase's bike is hitting those same bumps and is lifting up. So as it's lifting up, what does that mean? It's not on the ground, driving forward. So for him, he's losing all that time going out of the corners. It's not driving forward. Jet's bike's driving forward. And over time as a racer, one, that wears you out. But anytime you would end up making a mistake, has to deal with that. He makes a mistake in a corner going up a hill. The bike's going to do the same thing. It's not driving forward. So that part of the racetrack, to be able to lose that much time in 15 seconds is a lot. The reason why Chase didn't lose the time everywhere else because all the other sections were longer. Chase was going down the hills faster. Chase, if he didn't make the mistake, and didn't have that issue, he was faster everywhere else around the racetrack, except for that one part on the track to where it really was just bike setup. He couldn't do anything about it. The only way Chase would have been able to figure that out is by going outside and eliminating to going into the inside and having that bike work that low. So when I go back to him, I think Chase lost the race because of that spot. Well, if you're saying that you're the fastest on the whole racetrack, you're fast in each segment, that one segment, you're losing a full second. Well, that's kind of your race right there. The problem is for Chase, and this is where he was struggling with, is that he would lose so much time there. It was upsetting him. So if he's losing time there, he's got to make it up some other way. He's got to make it up. So he starts pushing it, going into the corners. And yeah, maybe 5 out of 10 laps, it's okay. Maybe 7 out of 10, it's okay. But those other 3, he makes a mistake, then he puts himself back in the same spot. So I think Chase Sexton and KTM is definitely going to have to work on that, because I would say when you're looking at the KTM and got a little bit of info, the KTM acceleration is not the fastest out of most of those motorcycles. It's kind of lazy. So if the things are already lazy off the bottom and then you're having issues of traction coming out of a corner, well, that's 2 negatives. And that's why that one particular area is so blatant. If the bike was faster, then it would almost put a Band-Aid on there so it wouldn't be so obvious. So I think with KTM, I don't know if they can make the motorcycle faster, then I don't think necessarily they would have to change too much on the suspension to get it out. If they don't, then they're going to have to work on the suspension to get that thing to have more traction, because the way going into Hangtown, going into these other tracks, that area is going to become a problem. And as the races go on and they get deeper, because Paulo wasn't that rough, they get deeper and deeper, it's going to be more of an issue. If you remember me talking a couple years ago, even with Ryan Dungey, I was like, dude, it looks like he's carrying an anchor around the racetrack. Well, it's kind of like the same thing. So overall, I think what KTM's done, they've taken Chase and they made him more of a solid rider. Like the whole team, the bike fits to the point to where when I visually look at Chase, he looks like he's more in control, looks like a better rider. So KTM is giving props for doing that. When you're racing against a guy who's so good in Jet Lawrence, so talented, and then you're racing against a team that has figured it out, don't be underestimate. That Honda's damn good. Like, that Honda is better than every other bike on the racetrack. Like, it's clear. So when you got generational talent like Jet Lawrence, a team that has everything figured out, it makes those areas to where, like, you have no choice but to figure it out. And if your bike's not as good in certain areas, it stands out. And I think it makes it difficult. Chase, KTM, they'll figure it out. But Jet Lawrence and Honda, they have, and they'll continue to get better. So was everybody else. And I think that's why he is so hard to beat. And Chase and KTM is going to have to do it, figure it out himself.